going through? How much of it was you talking directly with Scott, Steve talking directly with Scott? Can you just take us through it a little bit?
Yeah, it was both. I think anytime you go through, frankly, any negotiation, but certainly a negotiation of this magnitude, there are going to be twists and turns, there are going to be ups and downs. I thought Scott did a very good job with his communication throughout this process. He was dealing with a large number of teams, and as Steve mentioned, the landscape changed throughout the negotiation. And I thought we were well informed. Scott did a good job of talking to both of us throughout the process, and ultimately we're certainly thrilled with where it ended up.
Steve was quoted in the ESPN as saying on Saturday night he was not optimistic that you were going to get the play. Was that where your mind was at as well?
I didn't know. I didn't know. I would have put it under 50% for sure. I knew there were a number of clubs, multiple clubs, still bidding at very high levels, including us. And I think throughout our conversations with Juan, he was very much in information gathering mode. And so he wasn't really expressing his opinion about what he liked or what he didn't like. He was very much listening. And he's a good listener, and sometimes it can be tough to tell exactly what he's thinking. But ultimately, we're very happy that he made the choice he did.
What is your level of concern from small market clubs are going to complain that you kind of reset the economics of the sport, this deal?
I'm focused on the Mets and trying to win World Series with the Mets, and so I'm not particularly concerned about that.
David, when you came over here 14, 15 months ago, whatever it was this potential move on your radar that, hey, after the 2024 season, we're going to go in hard on Juan Soto?
Yes.
Did you talk about that in your initial meetings with Steve?
Yes.
What did you guys talk about at that point?
We talked about some of the generational players in our game, and the difficulty of accessing some of those generational players, and certainly Juan is one of them. You never know exactly where this is going to go, and if he was going to get an extension of some sort. But we did know that if he was going to be a free agent, we were going to make a very strong push.
How valuable was the season you just had in making that pitch to him?
I think Juan can answer that, but I think to show that as an organization we were a place and are a place that players want to play, that we have a culture where everyone, players, coaches, staff, enjoy coming to the ballpark every day and enjoy each other. I think that was part of it. Our on-field success was part of it. Look, Juan wants to win, and we want to win, and so show to be able to demonstrate this past year that we have the ability to win was probably a part of his decision.
How much does getting him sort of break down that wall now going forward for future free agents, future guys who may have previously been on the fence? Do I want to come to New York?
I'll be honest, I never felt that with any of the conversations I've had here. I think we have a reputation as an organization, especially now going into this offseason, where people want to come here. We have agents reaching out to us, expressing interest on behalf of their clients. So this will just add to that, but that has not been a problem for us.
David, what did you demonstrate during that presentation that made Juan so confident that you guys would be in the future, that dynasty that he talks about?
I think we talked a lot about both our approach to roster building and the young talent that we have coming, and our ability to continuously supplement our major league team with ownership resources, while also investing heavily in our minor league system. And Juan's been around enough organizations, and he's certainly been around the league enough that he's got a pretty good feel of what leads to sustainable competitiveness. And I think he felt like our vision aligned with his.
How do you evaluate Juan as a fielder right now?
I think he is probably about a league average right fielder, and we think he has the ability to get better. And that's something that we actually talked to Juan about during our meetings with him. And he is very motivated to continue to improve his defense. He got better this past year, and we think he can take another step forward.
How do you guys project that part of his game evolving over the course of 5, 10, 15 years?
Well, we're talking about a 26-year-old player. And so we're talking about a player that in a normal baseball universe, maybe a year or two into his major league career. So we are confident that there's a long period of time here that Juan's going to be in right field.
David, one of the things you've talked about over the
about last year was about the profile of a player and personality on top of performance. When you take a look at the fact that he turned down a 14-year extension and a 15-year extension because he had that much confidence in his game, what does that tell you about the player's confidence?
Yeah, he believes in himself, and he should believe in himself. And we see that every time he's in the box, right? Like there's no question that Juan Soto believes in his ability to hit and compete against the best in the world. I think we have other players on this team who are like that as well, and so Juan's going to build on that.
David, how do you
put you guys
quantify the
over
role?
the top? In those moments where you guys were feeling less than 50%, what was it that put you guys over the top?
Frankly, I still don't know. Over the course of time, and we've got a lot of time, Juan and I will get to know each other, and I'm eager to hear what made this decision for him. I do think Steve and Alex's involvement in this process, their genuine nature throughout this, that this was not only a baseball decision, this was a family decision for them. If I were sitting across the table, that would make an impact on me.
David, how do you quantify the role that Alex played in all of this? We've heard a lot about it, but what would you say?
Look, Alex is instrumental in our organization as a whole, not only in this pursuit. She's very involved in everything we do. I think in many ways she sets the culture for the organization. And Juan was looking for a place, and I believe, that had a culture and a family-centered value set that I think Alex displays.
Most of the baseball personnel decisions you make are just value-based. How much is this guy worth? Who should you trade for whom? This inherently seems a bit wider than that. What was it like for you, without really a lot of experience with deals of big deals, to go through this and to try to make an evaluation on some non-baseball stuff?
So it frankly, it was fun. I mean, we're pursuing someone who's on track to go to Cooperstown, who's done things at an age that maybe no one, maybe one or two others in the history of baseball has ever done. And we had a legitimate shot to bring him into our organization. I mean, we all went into this, full forward. We need to make the best show of this that we can, both financially, from a baseball standpoint, from an organizational standpoint. There was complete alignment.
David, how do you think this changes? I know your goal with Steve is to be champions, but does this change it from want to must when you make a move like this?
Look, I don't think this changes our goals or how we look at an organization. You make a move like this because the expectation is to win at a high level, win consistency, win championships. That was the expectation before this move, and it will continue to be the expectation.
Is this move any sweeter because you got a player the Yankees really wanted back?
I having grown up here, having grown up a Mets fan, I understand how, for our fan base, that is the case. For me, I'm just glad we got the player. Didn't matter from where he was coming. I'm just glad we got the player.
Did you consider the Yankees your biggest competition for this?
Probably, but we didn't have a ton of visibility, and so it was tough to tell. But we knew he had a good experience there, and so we knew that was going to be a main competitor.
In your conversations with him throughout this process, what did you learn about him that you didn't know before, and what are maybe some of the biggest takeaways that you came away with?
The way he thinks about hitting is elite. I mean, this is not only a physically gifted athlete, physically gifted hitter. This is someone who spends a lot of time thinking about his craft, observing other players. There's a reason he's as good as he is, and I think a lot of it is the thought that goes into his approach and how he goes about his business.
Dave, you've been with other organizations. Did you ever think a deal like this could be put together, this size, for a player?
I think every time there's a deal that breaks a barrier, there's surprise, and then the industry moves on until the next deal that breaks the barrier. So I've learned not to put limits on any deal or where things go in this industry. And when you have a player of Juan's talent, no, it didn't necessarily surprise me.
What does it say about it that you guys have the resources to do this kind of record deal?
Yeah, it speaks to our commitment of our ownership group. There were only a handful of owners in baseball who were committed to doing this, and we're very fortunate to have one of them.
Now that we can ask you a little more directly, how, if at all, does this affect the potential pursuit of Pete Alonso?
Look, I think this makes our team better. I'm not going to comment on any specific player pursuit, any specific player organization, player negotiation, other than what I've said previously, which is Pete's a great Met, and we'll see where the offseason goes.
But budget-wise, you have the room to do something like that if you wanted to.
We continue to have resources, and Steve and Alex continue to support us in very robust ways. Where we spend those resources remains to be seen, and how far we go remains to be seen. But throughout their time here, Steve and Alex have supported the baseball initiatives to the fullest extent, and I'm very confident they'll continue to do so.
Did you guys talk about a number this big before last week, or were you even surprised it got that high?
I'm sorry?
Did you guys talk about a number this big before like the last week, or were you even surprised it got this high?
We talked about all sorts of different scenarios. If you had asked me at the start of this process, I probably wouldn't have said it would have gotten this high. By last week, it probably wouldn't have surprised me.
What about Marte?
All right, a couple more.
About Marte?
Yeah.
Starling's a part of this team, and I think he still has a role on this team. He's a pro. He understands how this works, but he still has a role on this team.
Do you anticipate him?
Did you guys start on the presentations, the PowerPoints, the videos?
Yeah, I think in general off-season preparation starts in August, and that's when this pursuit, the preparation for this pursuit started as well.
All right.